Hi, ChrissieCasters. It's me, Chrissy Swan. Welcome to this podcast, and thank you for listening to it. I'm having a coffee and probably reading a book. I mean, look, holidays for me, unless I physically remove myself from the perimeter of the compound, they usually involve sorting buckets, and that is probably what I'm doing. But while I'm busy with that, why don't you enjoy a little selection of my favourite bits and bobs and conversations that have happened since I started the ChrissieCast about a year ago.
I try on stage to agitate my audience a bit, to challenge them a bit, because otherwise I'm just preaching to the choir. But I do think I actually manage that a bit. I piss everyone off a bit by being a sort of logic-loving rationalist moderate, because it's not trendy. And it's very typical of a middle-aged white guy to think like that. And fuck it, I still think like that, and I still think it's a valuable way to view the world.
Yes. And I think that I have been watching some of your performances, and in the back of my mind, I've thought, God, it's annoying that the people that most need to see this won't see it.
No. And that's my fault. I think a lot about how you reach out. And I talk a lot about how you reach out. And I do pretty well. I mean, my art, not so much my polemic, not so much my early stand-up. Without a doubt, if you were a very religious person who came, or if you really were into alternative medicine or whatever, and you came to my early shows, you would have felt a bit put off.
Affronted.
Yeah. But, you know, Matilda's seen by all sorts of people, and that's got big ideas in it that I'm glad are out in the world. And Groundhog Day is seen by all sorts of people. And
I'm dying to see Groundhog Day. I haven't seen it. Upright I loved. And I want to talk about Matilda because there are two songs in the world that I cannot sing without choking up. And one of them is Tenterfield Sadler.
Oh, wow.
And I'm feeling like...
That's amazing.
Sad. Just thinking about it, it's so sad.
It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
The grandson of George has been a while. And lives no special place.
You went to the big symphony part.
Well, I went to the bit about the Peter Allen, about the guy who lives all around the world and lives no special place, because that's me.
That's you. The late George will know. Oh, just to hear that voice and the sentiment behind it.
What are those lyrics? Lived on High Street. Lived on manners. Yes, lived on manners. Oh, it's such a good lyric.
It's so good. Here, I'm going to get it. Wait.
Late George Warno.
Wait, I'm going to get it because...
All day long he sat on his veranda and made his saddles. And if you had questions about... Oh, and that lyric later when you go, and if you have questions about why his son was so sad, well, George had no answers about why... Oh, my God, yeah. That's the lyric about why his son ever had need of a gun.
Had need
and that's Peter's dad.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
The late George will know, worked on High Street and lived on manners. 52 years he sat on his veranda, made his saddles. And if you had questions about sheep or flowers or dogs,
you just asked the saddler.
He lived without sin. They're building a library for him.
Do you know whose voice I hear when I hear that song?
Whose?
Todd McKenny's.
Oh, well, that's a shame.
I toured with Todd playing piano for him after The Boy From Oz, and I played that song while Todd sang it over and over again all around the country.
What a song. I think it could be the most perfect song. And I'm a lyric freak.
Yeah.
Time is a traveller. What a song.
Right again, cockatoo. It's so Aussie.
I know. It's just the best.
Yeah.
I've been told, and I reckon you have too, that, you're so unapologetically yourself. And the word unapologetically rubs me the wrong way because...
Yeah, what am I apologizing for? Being fucking honest?
Yeah. What?
I say that I am shamelessly myself because I don't have any shame about who I am.
Yeah. How do you achieve that? Are you a self-care person? Are you a walker? What is kind of your daily honouring?
I honestly have always believed that all of the things that I did that were bad or taboo or most people would find shame from were not done of my own volition. I was doing these things because of how I had been treated, either as a child or as a woman. And so I just gave my shame back to whoever caused it. Like, sure, I was an alcoholic, but why was I an alcoholic? I was an alcoholic probably because I was molested as a kid and I was completely unnurtured. So is that my fault? That's not my fault. That's their fault for the way that I was raised. And so I give that shame back to them. And it's why it was so easy for me to quit drinking, because I was not ashamed. I told people, I don't believe in Alcoholics Anonymous. Why do I need to be anonymous? I didn't murder anybody. I just drank.
Yeah.
So I think that's a problem for a lot of people when they quit. There's so much shame that they have. And it's like, why? Because you slept with a bunch of guys and drank, and I woke up in your friend's lawn, or the police came to my house, or whatever. Who cares? Like, who cares? I didn't kill anybody. And so I think that's just what's always made me unapologetically me, because also there was no social media growing up. So I had nobody to compare myself to. So I just was living my life the way it felt like I should live it, and was always looking for people to listen to me, pay attention to me. And, I think all women are like that.
Speaking of being unapologetically yourself and kind of listening to what society tells us and really actively rejecting that, it's very easy to take on board a feeling of failure if you don't tick certain boxes. And I know that you've never been married, I've never been married, and the automatic kind of opinion you have of yourself is, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Everyone's doing this. There must be something wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel that way.
Was there ever a glimmer of that and then you had to talk yourself out of it? Because the societal messages are pretty strong. I've never finished a degree. There are all these things that we're told we're supposed to do that I haven't done.
I mean, honestly, I really think I was just far too busy being an alcoholic to pay attention to the societal rules. When I was very young, I said that I wasn't going to get married until I was very old, and that age that I picked was 28. And then that was old when I was growing up.
Yes.
And then I kind of, I was busy living my life in my 20s and having fun and getting jobs and living in the city and dating and drinking and partying and just building a career. And I dated boys, but none of them were like, oh my God, I want to marry him. And then the ones that I did meet when I was older that I wanted to marry usually broke my heart. And so by the time I came out of my booze haze, I was 36. And then I had to get my shit together. So I wasn't dating. And then before I knew it, I was like, dating sucks. I don't want to get married or date or have babies or any of it. So I'm sure there was a time where I felt like a loser for not having a husband. I'm sure there was, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, it was so fleeting. You remembered your spirit. You are a TV writer, and I would love to know what narrative or storyline you would love to see on the screen about women.
I'd like to see the stuff that I write. I was a writer on a TV show called Baby Daddy for 100 episodes. It was a young show about young people. And when it ended, I decided to only focus on writing for women over 50. And I was it was 2017, so I was 57, I guess. Is that right?
Yes.
It was probably earlier than that.
Maths has never been my forte, but
women in their 50s, and I've been writing scripts. I have 4 or 5 on my desk that are about women in their 50s. I have my version of the Golden Girls. I have a script about a woman who flashes back at 50, who flashes back on all the men she dated in her 20s to see like what made her who she was. I have a movie. I mean, I have a lot of stuff, and it's all about women in their 50s. But the one thing I really want to see is my version of The Golden Girls or Sex and the City, because I think what they've done now is not realistic view of women in their 50s. And I don't think we see ourselves on TV. And I think, I always said, even when I started my social media journey, I always said that my goal was to change the way the world looks at women over 50. We come in all shapes and sizes.
I'm newly 50. I turned 50 a few months ago. And I just love it. I've never felt more myself, more like my own kind of kid version of myself. And I'm really enjoying it. I recommend it to anybody that's on the journey to 50. You are 10 years older than me.
60.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. You've said that your 50s kicked your ass.
Well,
what's coming?
Probably not as much as it kicked other people's asses, but it's interesting because my friend Constance turned 50 when I turned 60. And every day she was like, what's the big deal? I don't get it. What's the big deal? Everyone talks about 50. And now she's 53 and she's like, fuck these fucking 50s.
My sister said the same thing. She's like, how are you feeling? And I said, I feel really great. She's 8 years older than me. And she said, You've got 3 years. Enjoy it.
Yeah. I didn't get like hot flashes or anything like that, but I just felt like weight gain and everything fell apart and I was crabby and I was so fucking invisible. Like, hello, can anyone pay attention to me? And it was rough. Not menopause, thankfully, because then I would have really lost it. But it was just like the invisibility factor and the concept, the inner feeling of how do I stay relevant in this world was just looming at all times. And I'm a very curious person, and I feel like I'm a lot younger than most of the people I know. And I still felt like highly irrelevant, and it didn't last long, but I know that so many women that I hear from are just like on the struggle bus for that irrelevant feeling. It's like in the air. It's weird.
It is weird. And I read some research last year, and it's something like 75% of women, or even more, a higher percentage of women over 50 do feel invisible, even in the everyday stuff of like walking into a shop. It's like no one can see me. It's like I'm a vampire.
It's wild. It's really wild. And it really did happen overnight. And I do think a lot of it is our own perception of ourselves, because we have been raised to only think that our sexuality is our only value.
Yeah. Yes.
And when you start going through menopause, even just you start getting hormones and your body starts changing and you start changing, your own perception of your relevance becomes less because you feel less sexual. And so you buy into the fact that that's all you are, is a sexual being. Like, I don't give a fuck about sex. I haven't for 20 years and it hasn't changed a thing about who I am. It's just something that's so baked into who we are.
Yeah.
That you buy into the irrelevance. Like, well, no one's looking at me. Who cares if some fucking dude is looking at you?
Yeah.
If some shopkeeper's not looking at you, that's her fucking problem, and make her aware that you are standing there, But it's all how we carry ourselves in those situations, because we feel less than, because we've been told when you hit that age, you don't matter.
Yes. And that is the conclusion I came to when I was looking at these stats, because I don't feel invisible because I've never put value on being objectified or being
stay that way,
physically admired. I am fascinated with the fact that you spent decades with the name Sharon.
Yeah, till I was 24.
When did you have to remember that you were Sharon now. Did that happen when you arrived in Australia?
No. So in Malaysia, everyone has an English name. My mum's Christina, dad's Stephen, my brother's Casper. Everyone has an English name.
What were you called day to day in Malaysia?
Okay, I was called Poling at school, and at home I'm called B because that's just my nickname because it's from when my brother was tiny and he couldn't say my name. So he'd go, baby's crying, and that just got shortened to B.
That's cute.
Yeah. So everyone in my family just calls me B.
So when you started school in Australia, day one, were you Sharon?
I started Sharon because I started with Poling and then I got teased once by one boy and he was like, let's go bowling, Poling. And I was like, fuck that. I'm going with Sharon. So that's how that started. But I'd always written, as a kid, even in Malaysia, Sharon Poling Yao.
Oh,
no,
okay,
Sharon Yao Poling, actually. We always have last name first.
Right.
Yeah.
And what was the catalyst for you going, actually, I'm getting rid of Sharon altogether. I'm not Shazza anymore. I'm going with Poe.
So my first husband, my name's Elizabeth Taylor.
Yes. How many have you had?
2.
Two's a lot.
2. Yeah, 2. So my first husband,
Will you
Matt,
have a third, do you think?
I say no, but, I never like to say never. But
No, because we don't know what we're thinking from one day to the next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Because I'm not pessimistic, but I can't see how it's going to happen.
Yes, I know what you mean. I feel like proper connection like that is rare for normal people, and then you throw in us and, you know.
Apps, I can't do it.
Oh, God, no, yuck.
I saw this meme the other day. It says, I'm just hoping to meet someone in my lounge room.
I know. Knock on the door.
Yeah. So, but
Sharon.
Yeah.
Getting rid of Sharon.
So Matt's a filmmaker.
That's right.
And he made this short film that had me in it. And he goes, I'm going to call it Poling. I'm going to call it Your Name. And I was like, okay. And then he won this massive film prize. It was actually the biggest short film prize in Australia at the time.
Wow.
The Zoom Awards. And we had a little bit of like local press and stuff. And he just wrote in the credits, Poling played by Poling. He goes, let's just do this now. He goes, because he'd been begging me for years. He goes, you need to ditch the Sharon. And I'm like, no, I can't. It just feels really pretentious now. And he goes, what do you mean? That is your name. It's just, you're just shedding the Sharon. And at the same time, I was looking through some documents and found that Sharon wasn't on my birth certificate. And so he's like, let's just try it. Let's just get people to call you that from now on and just see how that.
And what was that like?
And everyone just latched onto it. I felt a little bit self-conscious because it was also when I just started painting and I thought everyone thought I was being a pretentious git.
Oh, yeah.
And being, oh, now that I'm a painter, can you call me Pooh? But
It's my nom de plume.
It's my nom de plume. Yeah. But everyone just latched onto it so quickly that it just took
There
off.
is no other name for you. Like it is there is just no other name. You are Poe through and through. Like, do you feel that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Gosh, haven't we had a lovely time? I'll see you back here next week for a few more highlights that you might not have heard.